Recording this week, you got all that?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So Proverbs 3, we're going to be looking at verses 13 through 35. And good morning, Steve. And we'll see if we can get through this many verses today. Maybe we can. I've got a lot more notes than I normally do. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on review, other than just to say that this is still kind of this idea of, Solomon talking to his son, whether that's Rehoboam or somebody else. We don't necessarily know, one of his other sons maybe, but, just giving these, Proverbs, do this, don't do that. And this chapter does have quite a few commands. There are 9 commands in the passage that we are looking at today. Primarily, they're 27 through 31. And I would encourage you to, highlight those, think about those, mark those in some shape, form, or fashion. There's 2 more in verse 21 and another one in verse 25. And so I'm going to be getting at, there's only one positive command in all of this, but we'll get at these as it pertains to the practical side of these things. But before we do that, let's just jump in verse 13. We'll read the text and then offer some commentary. Verse 13, how blessed is the man who finds wisdom and the man who obtains discernment. For her profit is better than the profit of silver, and her produce better than fine gold. She is more precious than pearls, and nothing you desire compares with her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and glory. Her ways are pleasant ways, and her pathways are peace. She is a tree of life to those who seize her, and all those who hold fast are blessed. Hold her fast are blessed. Yahweh established wisdom. Let me start over verse 19. Yahweh by wisdom founded the earth. By discernment he established the heavens. By his knowledge the deeps were split up and the skies drip dew. My son, do not let them deviate from your eyes. Guard sound wisdom and discretion, so they will be life for your soul and grace around your neck. Then you will walk in your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be in dread. You will lie down, and your sleep will be pleasant. Do not be afraid of sudden dread, nor of the storm of the wicked when it comes, for Yahweh will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your hand to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, go and come back, and tomorrow I will give it, when it is there with you. Do not devise harm against your neighbor while he lives securely beside you. Do not contend with a man without cause, if he has dealt you no harm. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways. For the devious one is an abomination to Yahweh, but his secret counsel is with the upright. The curse of Yahweh is on the house of the wicked one, but he blesses the abode of the righteous. Though he scoffs at scoffers, yet he gives grace to the humble. The wise will inherit glory, but fools raise up disgrace. So, if you want to, from a structural standpoint, if you want to kind of break this apart, 13 through 26 is going to be about the benefits of wisdom. What's the good stuff you get from wisdom? 27 through 31 is going to, give some practical commands on what not to do. And then the end there, verse 32 through 35, is going to do like kind of a compare and contrast the blessings and cursings of life, of these lifestyle choices. So that's kind of how this is laid out. So let's dig in. Verse 13, how blessed is the man who finds wisdom and the man who obtains discernment. It's just a general statement, really introducing the whole category here. This refers to a state of being that's superior to the alternative. If you think about, what does it mean to be blessed? Well, it's better than not blessed, right? This guy is, has a lifestyle that's generally characterized by good stuff, and put it that way. And so the author is going to outline what it looks like to live these lives, to live this out in real life. And so verse 14, it says, her prophet. Whose prophet is he talking about? Verse 14. Who's the her?
Wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah. It's lady wisdom, right? So wisdom is personified as a woman. and she is better than silver or gold. Notice that it's both in profit and in produce. So what it gives and what it creates. Okay, the outcomes and the process itself. Okay, it's worth more, it makes more. Even though it is intangible, it creates tangible outcomes that are better than money. But you think about that for just a second. Wisdom, wisdom in and of itself is not something like you can kind of grab hold of, right? It's an idea, right? It's a skill in living. That's how wisdom has been defined. Sometimes wisdom is defined as learning from the mistakes of others, not just your own, right? And so it's intangible, and yet it says here that it is more profitable than silver or gold. It produces more. It's more precious, verse 15, than pearls, and nothing you desire compares with her. Even though wisdom is intangible, it creates tangible things. Do you see that? It produces something. It has a profit to it. And certainly, I think that no doubt includes, money and, that kind of thing. But it does something more than that. I'm going to read what I wrote here. The phrase, nothing you desire compares with her, should motivate us to direct our desires accordingly. Let me back up to verse 14. Wisdom is better than silver or gold, both in profit and produce. It's worth more and it makes more. Even though it is intangible, it creates tangible outcomes that are better than money. Money in the hands of a fool is like water. What you think about this for a second? Do fools sometimes make a dollar? Make a lot of dollars?
Yep.
Yes. Do they keep it?
Probably not.
Generally not, right? It's like water. They can't grab it, right? It's there. It's flowing, right? I mean, people even talk like this, right? Oh man, we're gonna blow up. It's gonna start rolling, and it's like, and yet what happens when they get it? Do they invest it? No, right? They spend it on stupid crap. They do dumb stuff with it. Wisdom understands the difference. Money in the hands of a fool is like water. He can never grasp it. Wise men know how to make their money make money. They invest. They are keen on the practice of delayed gratification. Wisdom is better, verse 15, than the outcomes of wisdom. The phrase, nothing you desire compares with her, should motivate us to direct our desires accordingly. So the idea being that, instead of trying to get the outcomes of wisdom, we need to get wisdom itself. Instead of getting the benefits of wisdom, we should search for wisdom. It's kind of like, you think about it this way. It's kind of like insider information, right? In the stock market, right? If you had that information, you can make, goodles and goodles of money, right? If you have information that no one else has, that's what wisdom is. The difference is that insider information is very specific about a specific thing that's going on, and it comes and the opportunity leaves, and that's it, and that's all, and it's over. Whereas wisdom is something that is sustainable. It's that almost insider information of how the world really works. So it's transformational and helps. And here in this case, Solomon's talking to his son, and it helps a man interact in the world in a way that it's profitable and truly blessed. So if you ever wonder how is it that some of these guys, it's like everything they touch just kind of turns to gold. There are some people who get it, by ill-gotten gain and stuff like that. But there's some guys, there's just something about them, and it's kind of like, you just can't really put your finger on it. There's a wisdom there that they have. They just have a wisdom about these things. And so what he's saying here is that the prophet is better, Profit, not Phet. The benefit of wisdom is better than gold or silver. Now, is it just money? Of course not. Like it's much more than that, and he's going to talk about that. Right now, verse 16. What does it say in verse 16? What is another one of the benefits of wisdom?
Long life.
Long life. It says length of days, right? Which is just another way of saying a long life is in her right hand. Well, that's Lady Wisdom's right hand. And in her left hand, hey, she's got two hands, right? She's got long life in one, and she's got what's in the other?
Riches and honor.
Riches and honor, riches and glory. right? And so there is a financial piece to it, but you'll notice here, I want you to think about the opposite of this. What do immature men do? A lot, yeah. One of the things that they do is they just live for today, right? This whole YOLO thing and this whole stupid, carpe
Drink today for we die tomorrow.
yeah, carpe diem and all this kind of stuff and all this kind of thing. Like, I don't give a about anything and just that whole mentality, right? It is a weak, immature man's way of thinking about things. Length of days is in her right hand. And I even hear people say the most stupid crap, like, oh, I don't want to live a long time. It's like, well, you're an idiot, okay? You're stupid, okay? You're a moron, okay? That's idiocy, right? For all of human history, death, even for the believer, right? We're going to go be with the Lord, and that's fine, that's good, and all that kind of stuff. But death is still death. Right? Yeah. Okay? It's still the separation of two things that were never meant to be separated. It's still, in some ways, a perversion. It's still the effect of sin. Death is never a good thing. Okay? It's never a good thing. Even for the believer, right? You understand what I'm saying here, right? We qualify that, and we know that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. We know, but one day, that's why the resurrection is such a beautiful thing, is that the body and the spirit, the immaterial and the material, are put back together. Why are we talking about this? Length of days is in her right hand. You remember when we're reading Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 at church about the law, what does it say about the law? What happens if you obey the law? What's the result of that? That it'll go well with you. Honor your father and your mother in the land that God's given you so that you'll live a long life. It's this idea, verse 2 in the same chapter here, 3:2, the length of days and years of life and peace to you. It's talking about obeying God and doing what he says to do. And so, there are many, many, many people, right? We all know people that fall in this category that because of their life decisions, their life is cut short. Right? They don't take care of themselves physically. They do stupid stuff. They take dumb risks. They don't have, adequate health care or, think about anything other than just today. Notice the kind of language that's used here in the second half of verse 16. In her left hand are riches and glory. This is majestic language, right? This is kingly language. You want to be like a king. You want to live like a king. You want to be kingly material, be wise. Wisdom makes men kings. I'm going to say that again. Wisdom makes men kings. It shapes their understanding in such a way that transforms their character. This is the explicit outcome of verses 14 to 15, where he says that, it's more valuable than gold. Well, why is it more valuable than gold? Because it helps you to lead a long life, guards you from unnecessary risk, and gives you riches and glory. What's glory? What's glory? It's beauty, it's majesty, it's it's that sense of awe, right? It's knowing that, we know this in the sports arena, right? What's glory, right? It's when your name's on the Ring of Honor, right? At the stadium, there's something, people, you are remembered because of what you've accomplished. He says here that wisdom in her left hand are riches and glory. So it's this idea that men become kings. Glory is a kind of life that is enviable. That's what I think of mostly, right? A life of glory is a life that when other people see it, they want it. They want the outcome, but the thing is that most people don't want the price. They don't want the price. What's the price? You got to get wisdom. You got to get wisdom, right? You got to live wisely. The benefits, people want the benefits, but they don't want the discipline. Verse 17 outlines for us the pleasures of wisdom. Notice what it says. Her ways are pleasant ways, and her pathways are peace, and all her pathways are peace. So it outlines this idea that wisdom brings about satisfaction, peace, well-being. There's a lack of anxiety when wisdom is present. I'm going to say that again. There's a lack of anxiety and worry when wisdom is present. It drives out unwarranted worry and doubt. It is pleasurable and peaceful. There's an inner peace. I think there's an outward peace. All her pathways, in, out, side to side, all of them. The way of wisdom leads to peace. A sense of, things are going the way that they should. When I say things like, you hear me say things like, the world doesn't need therapy, it needs discipleship. This is what I'm talking about. Okay? Because we got people that are, well, I need to go get a prescription, or I need to do this or whatever. And I'm not anti, any of that necessarily, and I'm not anti, my daughter's probably going to be a therapist, okay? So let me just say this, all right? But what I mean by that is that people, if they understand who God is and who they are and how we're supposed to walk in wisdom and skill, what does that do? It changes our psyche. It changes how we think about things. It changes how we view ourselves and the world and our problems and everything that's going on. It changes it. So when I say things like we don't need therapy, we need discipleship, this verse is what I'm getting at. It's these kinds of passages here that I think have a therapeutic value to us. It changes the way we think about things. What we dwell on, what we choose to think about, what it is that we're, think of the tape that's running in our head, right? The soundtrack that's running in our head, the internal talk that goes on. Wisdom, it says, her ways are pleasant ways, soothing ways, like a salve that heals, pleasant ways, and all her pathways are peace, as opposed to, what's the opposite of peace? Well, it'd be war, right? And war inside of people's heads, right? I'm sure you've probably had this experience, right? You're thinking about stuff you don't want to be thinking about, right? It's just like overcoming you, and you're getting overrun by the enemy, right? There's all these troops marching in your head, kind of thing. Here it says, wisdom, her pathways, all her pathways are peace. The man of wisdom, see, he knows how to take thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ. Notice what else it says, verse 18. She, wisdom, is a tree of life to those who seize her. And by all those who hold fast to her are blessed. There's that word again, verse 13. Blessed. They're blessed. Wisdom, she is like a tree of life to those who seize her. To those who snatch her up, grab a hold of her. When you find wisdom, you need to wipe her up, man, right? You need to lock her down, right? You need to seize her, grab onto her. You see that word? Anybody else got another translation there? What does it say?
Hold her fast.
Hold her fast. You see how that's like marriage language? Hold her. Hold her how? Strong, fast. Don't let her go, right? Let me go. No, right? Get over here, woman, right? You are mine, right? I am not turning loose, right? Why? Because she's profitable, because she's pleasurable. Her path is the path of peace. I'm not turning loose, right? And notice how the imagery it gives in verse 18a, she is a tree of life. A tree of life. Where's that language found?
In the garden.
That's right. Yeah.
Psalm 1.
Yeah, both. Yeah. Genesis and Psalm 1. Both of which I think are in view here. She is a tree of life, right? It's the thing that's going to keep you out of sin and keep you headed in the right direction. Flip over to Psalm 1 real quick. If you don't know Psalm 1, you ought to have Psalm 1 committed to memory. Parallels very nicely with what we're talking about here. Psalm 1, verse 1. And the whole thing's not very long, so you can memorize, I think it's, 7 verses or something like that? 8 verses. Blessed is the man who doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight, you see that language there? What he wants is in the law of the Lord. And on his law he meditates, he thinks about it, he chews on it day and night. He's like a what? Tree. What kind of tree? A West Texas tree? No. Right? Some scrub bush? No. Right? He's like a tree that is what? What does it say?
Planted by streams of water that yields its fruits in its season.
All right, slow down. All right, that is planted, first of all, right? It's not uprooted. It's not blown over. It's established. It's planted where? What does it say?
Streams.
Streams of water. Why is that important?
So
What makes it grow?
Yeah, you got to have water, right? You got to have nutrients. You got to have good soil. This thing is planted by a stream of water, and what happens as the riverbank overflows during the rainy season, it deposits all of the good sediments and the water on the tree, right? And the tree grows, right? So this man, instead of hanging out with stupid idiots, walking in the counsel of the wicked and unrighteous and all this stuff, you notice there's a progression even in that language, right? He doesn't, what does it say? He doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked or stand in the way of sinners or sit. He's, the guy sitting down, he's hanging out with scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and it meditates on that day and night. He's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season. It bears fruit. It's growing, right? And of course, you think about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That's Galatians 5. He yields its fruit in due season. Its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. But the wicked are not so. They are like the chaff. What's chaff?
the weeds, right?
Chaff's like when you take wheat and you run it through the grinder. Okay, it's the leftover part that's not the kernel. They take the chaff and they take a winnowing fork, like a pitchfork, and they toss it up in the air. And what happens?
The chaff and the seed separate.
Chaff and seed separates. The chaff gets blown away and the seed falls back and is useful. He says the wicked are not so. They are like the chaff that the wind drives away. You know anybody who's just blown by the wind? Their thinking is always one way, and you talk to them another day and it's something else, right? They can't focus. They can't maintain any kind of direction. They're just ping-ponging around life. They're not a man of gravitas or establishment. But he is a wicked, immature. By the way, immaturity is wickedness. It's wrong to remain immature. The chaff are not so. They are blown away by the wind. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in judgment, nor the sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous. He knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. So back to Proverbs here. I think it parallels nicely what we're talking about here. This verse 18, she, wisdom, is like a tree of life to those who seize her. And all those who hold fast to her are blessed. Verse 19, Yahweh by wisdom founded the earth. By discernment he established the heavens. In other words, if you want to be like God, if you want to do what God does, if you want to know how God is a creator, God is a builder, and if you want to be a creative builder, you also should what? Wife up wisdom, right? That's the idea. You should snatch up wisdom. By wisdom, this is how God did what he did. This is a peek into the inner workings of how God created what he created. It says that Yahweh created the heavens and the earth by wisdom and discernment. I take this to be an implicit commentary on the outcome of our lives when we align them with him. We likewise will be like our master. We will embrace his ways, namely wisdom and discernment, and we will likewise build and create, therefore bearing his image and taking dominion. You think about this. How are we created in Genesis? In the image of God. And if you want to rightly reflect God, then what do? You adopt the characteristics. And so that's righteousness, wisdom. And so if you want to be creative and be established in his ways, you want to be like him. This is how he created the world. So we should do the same thing. So, verse 21. My son, this is the first command in the passage for today, not in the book or in the chapter necessarily, but for our purposes today. Verse 21, my son, do not deviate them from, or let them not deviate from your eyes. What is the them? What's he referring to?
Wisdom and discretion.
Yeah, wisdom and discretion, right? Don't let them deviate from your eyes. How would you say that positively? Don't let something deviate from your eyes.
Focus.
Yeah, that's it.
Focus on it.
That's it. Focus. 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 I've used this before, forgive me if you already know this, right? But when you've got a horse and, you want them to be more compliant. We've got a horseman in here. One of the things that you do is you put blinders on them, right? So that they will be directed by the rider and not by the things that are, to the left or the right. God talks about this. In the law, he says, don't turn to the left or the right, right? Go straight forward, right? Be focused. Focus, what does it mean to be focused?
Single-minded.
Single-minded, right? What does it not mean?
Distracted.
Yeah.
On track with something specific.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I think that was helpful for me in this regard, and I still think about quite a bit, is if you're going to focus on something, that means that you're not focused on a whole bunch of other things, right? You're going to specialize. Right, you're not going to be a generalist about some things. You're going to be more specific and single-minded, as you said, Ryan. And let me just say it more plainly. You're going to suck at certain things. You're choosing what to be bad at by focusing on other things that you think are better. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I choose to suck at video games. I choose to suck at drinking. I choose to suck at, the ways of Tinder, or, online goofiness, or, ain't nobody got time for that. It's just like that. I'm just not doing that, right? There are certain things that are just not worth it. And you have to make value judgments, and, for some people, there's some leeway in some of those things. But here, notice what's being said. What verse we're in? We're in verse 21. My son, do not let them deviate from your eyes. Focus means strategically ignoring some things. Choosing to not be good at certain things, right? And here he says, focus on what?
Wisdom and discretion.
Yeah, wisdom and discretion. He adds to this, the second half of 21b, guard sound wisdom and discretion. Guard them. What does that mean? Brad, you got a different translation? 21b?
Yeah, do not let them out of your sight, is what mine says.
Don't let them out of your sight. What's the second part I would say?
Keep sound wisdom.
Keep sound wisdom. Keep it, guard it. What does yours say, Brad?
Well, it says preserve sound judgment and discernment.
Preserve. Okay. Preserve it, guard it, keep it. When you guard something, what's that mean?
Protecting it from invasion.
Yeah, you're protecting it, right? You're wrapping your arms around it, right? Holding fast, right? It's that same language that we talked about earlier. But it's a little different because here you're not just holding fast to wisdom like a wife. You're also guarding her and not letting anything else in. You're pushing back. This is warrior language. Preserve, guard, keep, right? I'm going to fight against something that would invade my pursuit of wisdom, right? And so guard wisdom and discretion. It's a command. Do this. In fact, it's the only positive command in this text. Guard her. Guard her. Fight for her. Men should be warriors, but they need to be warriors fighting for the right thing. It's really, really, really important. You want to waste your life on some stupid cause, it doesn't matter, right? That's foolishness. Here, what did he say? Guard, fight for wisdom. Keep her. Preserve her. Why? Verse 22. So they, wisdom and discernment, or wisdom and discretion, so they will be, what does it say?
Life for you.
Life mine says for your soul.
Yeah.
You see that? Life for your soul. You want deep and abiding meaning and truth, and something that is inspirational and that causes you to want, that appeals to your want to. Here it is, right? Wisdom, verse 21. Don't let her deviate from your eyes. Guard her, and she will be, or they will be, life to your soul. Life to your soul. This verse is, it's transformational. If you think about, like, all that people do to try to get life, to find meaning and purpose and all this kind of stuff. Here, what's the Bible saying? This is life for your soul. This is gonna make life make sense, right? We got people running around all over the place that are lost in every imaginable sense of the term. They're lost spiritually. They're lost psychologically. They're lost emotionally. Their whole life is just lost. Here, what does it say? Wisdom gives purpose. It gives satisfaction, gives meaning. It's life for your soul and grace for your neck. Grace for your neck. Again, it's just the idea of a garland around your neck, something beautiful and something nice. And then, verse 23, then you will walk in your way, how? Securely. What did you say, Brad?
In safety.
In safety. Yeah. Securely, and your foot will not stumble. There will be a sense of establishment, a sense of peace. That goes back again to one of the verses that we talked about earlier, that all her ways are peace. So if you want the outcome of security and establishment and not stumbling, your foot will not stumble. Think about what's the opposite of stumble. Well, it means sure footing. Stable, right? If any of you have ever had a knee injury, you know this feeling of not being able to know whether or not you can depend on your leg. It's a disorienting feeling, right? Makes you feel weak, almost dizzy, like it's maddening. Okay, not knowing. It would almost, another analogy would be walking around on a steep, craggy surface in the dark. What are you doing? You're going slow, right? You're gonna, hands out, drag your feet, make sure you're not stepping in a hole or stepping on an incline, it's unstable. Whereas if it's stable, what can you do? You can put some pressure on this thing. You can walk with security. You can walk with confidence because of the way this, because the path is secure. Notice verse 24. It's not just your daytime activities, but it's your nighttime activities as well. Verse 24, when you lie down, you will not be in dread. You will lie down and your sleep will be pleasant. You have this experience where sleep isn't restful, where you're like a hot dog turning all night long, in a cooker, going from one side to the other side, waking up, thinking about stuff, can't get things out of your head. We've all been there, right? I had a guy tell me one time, this was in 2008, and he just got smashed by the recession back then, and lost basically half of everything that he had, and which he had built up. And he said, the reality is far less worse than the dread of it. He said the dread is always a lot worse than the reality. And he'd been smashed. And he was like, yeah, it's not that bad. He's like, but
everything leading up to this.
Well, but worrying about getting smashed, he said was just torture. It was just torture. It's just torture, right? The idea that this is going to... One of the things that God in His grace has done is He has made us incredibly adaptable as people, right? He's made us adaptable and where we can grow. There's growth mindset and all this kind of stuff. And so here, the benefit of wisdom is not just that your day-to-day path will be secure, but what does that do? That spills over into night so that when you go to sleep, the light switch goes off, right? You know, people who just, they can't turn it off, right? You know, and so what do people do? They, you know, they take drugs, they, you know, maybe, you know, there's, you know, everybody's trying to hack their, nowadays the whole big thing is like hacking your hormones, you know, melatonin and all this kind of stuff. Um, Again, when I say things like people don't need therapy, they need discipleship, this is what I'm getting at, okay? And again, I'm not completely anti all those things or something like that. I'm just saying there's more to that. Like, this is how God's designed us. When we get wisdom, we say, you know, it's goofy. Like, I'll just tell you, right? Some of the stuff's going on right now with us. I had to work hard to say to myself, okay, let's quantify this risk that's going on in my workplace right now. There's a major corporation that is, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars. They don't even know who I am. They don't care about me, and they can squish me like a bug, you know, if they want to. But I have no control over that. Why am I worrying about something that I have no control over?
Dread.
Yeah, that it causes dread, right? It causes dread if it's like this thing is, you know, that's different from saying, okay, what things can we do, and are we doing those things, you know, and thinking strategically about that. That's one thing. It's another thing to, you know, find my safety and my security in this customer. Well, that's stupid. That's idiocy, right? Well, what am I going to do if they pull the plug on us, right? And this all goes away.
Safety and security goes.
Yeah. The answer is I'm going to trust the Lord, right? I'm going to walk in grace for today. I'm going to remember what the Bible says in Matthew 6, that he cares for the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, and he gives grace for today. He doesn't give grace for tomorrow. By the way, when you get to tomorrow, it'll be today. Every alcoholic knows that, by the way, right? I was talking with a guy one time, and he said his sponsor told him, he said, man, I just really want to drink. And he said, well, you can have a drink tomorrow. And so the next day comes, and he calls him and says, it's tomorrow. He goes, no, it's not tomorrow. It's today. You tricked me. You know, it's like, you know. Yeah, God gives grace for today. He gives grace for today. And so you have to walk with him faithfully. Of course, wisdom makes plans and contingencies and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you trust in the Lord. You do what verse 5 and 6 says. You don't lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways you acknowledge him. So this is real deal stuff, right? About, you know, we live in a world that has increased amounts of uncertainty and things like that. But is it really more uncertain than times past? No. I mean, we don't fear an invasion from a you know, barbarian horde, right? Okay, maybe some of us do, but you know, like generally it's not, you know,
Not in the same degree.
not to the same degree, right? We don't fear, you know, generally, you know, getting, you know, black plague or malaria or something like that, or, you know, half of our women die in childbirth or half our kids die in childbirth. Like these are things we don't even worry about today, and yet we get all bent out of shape about, you know, our income. Guys, we need to grow up a little bit, right? Notice he says here, when you lie down, you'll not be afraid. You'll not be in dread. Your sleep will be pleasant. Men who have clear consciences, men who know that they're doing what they need to be doing, when they lie down, they're able to have restful sleep, and it's refreshing sleep. They'll not be in dread. And so this is what he's commending here to us. Verse 25, there's another command here. Don't be afraid of sudden dread. So in case you missed it, here's the command, all right? This is what the dad's telling the son. Don't be afraid. Notice that that's a choice. That's a choice. Don't be afraid of the sudden dread or storm of the wicked when it comes. Don't be afraid of it. Don't shrink back, right? Don't be afraid. Take courage. Man up, be strong, right? Why? Because you've learned wisdom, because she is satisfaction to your soul. It's kind of like, I'll tell you, I won't spend a lot of time talking about this, but there is it's well documented during the war between the states. There's a guy named Stonewall Jackson. You know about Stonewall Jackson? His name was not Stonewall. It's a nickname, right? How did he get the nickname? He was a man of wisdom. He was a man of courage. He was a man who had a sense of the sovereignty of God and wasn't afraid of northern bullets, or any bullets for that matter. This is the guy that is standing up in the middle of the fray when everybody else is hitting the dirt, right? Guys like that. Why? Because they're trusting in the Lord. And by the way, just so you know, he died in the war, right? And yet he won. Was not a guy who was overcome by dread at all. Didn't bother him a bit. You can read a lot of his writings, and it's inspirational. It's pretty powerful. He's just one of, we could give other examples, but what does he say here? Don't be afraid of sudden dread. Don't be scared. Don't, shrink back from this or from the storm when it comes. Why? Verse 26, for Yahweh, the Lord, will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. So the idea that God is your confidence. You trust in Him. Don't lean on your own understanding. And He will keep your foot from being caught. What kind of language is this? What is this imagery of? This foot being caught. What is that?
It's a setback.
Yeah, it's like an animal in a trap, right?
And mine says snared.
Yeah, a snare. Yeah, it'll keep your. So there is an enemy, and he is trying to ensnare you, right? Sometimes we are the enemy, right? There's the flesh, there's the world, and there's the devil. He says here, if you do this, if you trust the Lord will be your confidence, if you get wisdom, He will keep your foot from being caught. You'll recognize the lies of the world. You'll recognize the traps, and what will you do? You'll have secure footing, and you'll avoid those things, right? You'll get around them. You'll get out of them. He'll keep your foot from being caught. Verse 27. We're going to speed up a little bit here because these are commands. How do you do this, right? What does this look like in real life? Verse 27. Do not withhold good from those whom it is due. This is very practical stuff, okay, from wisdom. Don't withhold good from whom it is due when it is in your hand to do it. Notice the language of due. These people are obligated good from you. It's actually their good that you owe them. So it could be the sense that maybe there's something that was borrowed or something that is owed to somebody. He goes on and he says verse 28, do not say to your neighbor, go back and tomorrow I will give it when it is there with you. So verse 28 and 27 actually go together. It's this idea of pay people what they're due when they're due. If you're signing invoices, don't let them stack up on your desk. If you have terms with somebody, if you've got it, pay them. Businesses are notorious these days because of the increase of ungodliness in our culture. Used to, people paid people in a timely way, right? An invoice came in, an invoice got paid. Okay, it took longer for the bank to process it than it did for the people, the accounts receivable, accounts payable department. Nowadays, what do people do?
90 days.
90 days, baby. And 90 days is 90 days 90 days? No. What is it?
More like 180.
Yeah, it's more, right? And people have whole business models of stretching people out, right? It's unfortunate. It's a terrible thing. What does the Bible say to do? A man of wisdom, what does he do? Pay your freaking debts. Pay your people what they're due. When? Right now. Not tomorrow. Right now. Not 90 days. Right now. Right? There are companies out here that embody both sides of this, right? I know companies that their whole business model is stretching people. They get hundreds of millions of dollars stretching people out. By the way, it's just a way of financially lying to Wall Street. Okay? When you have a multi-billion-dollar business and you can stretch people out over an entire quarter, what did you just do? You had just increased your bottom line by 25%. Did you actually increase your bottom line by 25%? No. It's
a loophole.
fraudulent accounting is what it is. Okay? It's misrepresentation. It's lying. Okay? That's what it is. There are other companies that I happen to know of that if they owed you money, brother, the check would beat you back to your office. You know, they pay people immediately. And I'll just tell you, as a business owner, you pay your people and you pay your debts immediately. People tend to take your phone call better, right? Because they know they're going to get paid, right? You're not going to stretch them out, and you might even get better terms, you know, on other things. You might get a better deal or whatever, or something like that. There are benefits to this. So what does he say? Don't withhold good from whom it's due. Pay your people. Pay them quickly. Verse 29, don't devise harm against your neighbor. This seems like a goofy one to me. I'm like, why would you be thinking about how to hurt this dude? You know, like, don't devise harm against your neighbor when he lives securely beside you. I think it's this idea that you got a guy that, notice how is he living beside you? It says securely.
It says
Trustingly, right? He's trusting you to be a good neighbor, right? What you don't do is wait and hide out and shoot him with a paintball gun, or, waylay him, because watch this, you got some jackass thing going on or something, Don't devise harm against your neighbor. It's hard to imagine that people do goofy stuff like this, but I think what it means is don't take advantage of somebody who's unsuspecting. Right? Are there simple people in the world who are a little naive and gullible? Again, this goes to business practices. I know entire businesses that were set up. I mean, if you've ever watched The Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room or anything like that, these people set up entire businesses by calling people who didn't know any better on the phone and putting them in stupid stocks that were worthless, right? Don't take advantage of people that don't know any better. Don't do that. It's not good. It's not a good thing to do. Don't harm your neighbor when he lives securely beside you. Don't contend with a man without cause. Verse 30, if he has dealt you no harm. In other words, don't be a man of violence. Don't be out here looking for a fight for somebody who's not done anything to you. Mind your business and be a peacekeeper. This is, Matthew 5. Be a peacekeeper when you can. Is there a time and a place to fight? Absolutely there is, right? One of the requirements of an elder in the church is that he not be a man of violence, essentially, right? Not be a brawler. The old King Jimmy says, no striker. No striker. It's like, what? I'll just tell you, I grew up with a bunch of guys like this. Somebody said something, next thing somebody got jacked, right? Somebody was getting hit, right? I mean, it was one word, pow. I'll just tell you, that's the way I grew up. That was my mentality. 90% of the fights that I got in, I started them. I threw the first punch, right? And many times it was the last punch. That's how we dealt with things. What's that? Pow! Clock them, whack them. And notice what he says here. He says, don't contend with a man without cause. Some of these guys say, well, he had it coming. Okay, let's redefine our threshold of what deserves a whack upside the head, kind of thing. Now, I will say that on the same side that our culture's probably gone too far in the other direction. There is a time for some of that stuff. But here he says, don't contend with a guy without cause. Don't contend with him for no good reason, just to be cantankerous. And that's a problem. Like a guy like me, I like to fight. I enjoy it, right? It's not good. It's not a good thing. And so all of us have things about our personalities that we have to correct for, right? Some people are too passive and they need a kick in the butt. Some guys are way too active and need to have a bit put in their mouth and be directed accordingly.
So how do we bring it back to center, Cody? Do we just start punching people, or? Because people aren't afraid to, say things nowadays. They don't get whacked upside the head.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, you can't.
Wisdom and discernment.
I'm just trying to think how we get it back balanced.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're just baiting me, Tony. I think you know that I hate leaving unanswered questions, and you're asking me a question that you know the answer to. Yeah. In verse 31, don't envy a man of violence and do not choose any of his ways. Right? You see a violent guy, you see a guy who is, he likes to fight, he's out there, he's a brawler, he's doing this all the time. Stay away from that guy, avoid that guy, right? I think that's what's being said here. I'll just tell you personally, I've had to change who I thought embodied manliness, right? I've had to change what I thought about that. It doesn't mean that we still don't need, rough and burly guys who are willing to, do what needs to be done. But that's not their first move, right? Not everything can be solved with a hammer and a stick, right? There are many times there's better ways. Verse 32. This is going to be, so 32 through 35, he's going to get into kind of this compare and contrast between the wicked and the righteous. He says, verse 32, the devious man is an abomination to Yahweh. The devious man. Anybody have another translation for devious there?
One says, for the Lord detests a perverse man.
A perverse man. Yeah, a devious man. Perverse, literally, it means crooked. Okay, you take something that's straight and now it's crooked. And if you think about when we think about perversity, normally it has sexual connotations. It's crooked. It's out of whack. It's not straight. All of those terms are on purpose, by the way. That's a whole nother discussion for another time. But he says that the devious man or the perverse man is a what? Does it say? An abomination to Yahweh, to the Lord. Let me say it a little more strongly. God hates that guy. The idea that God just loves everybody, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He hates that guy. He hates unrighteousness, and he hates the unrighteous. He hates the sinner. Some people say he hates sin and loves the sinner. No, he hates the sinner, right? He hates that guy that's doing that thing. Now, he may redeem that guy and change that guy, but he may not. He hates the wicked. The devious are an abomination. Yahweh detests them. If you want more verses about this, chapter 11, verse 1, chapter 20, verse 23. If you want those later, I can give you the references. And we should hate what God hates, right? Don't envy these guys. Verse 32, he's an abomination to the Lord. But, talking about God's secret counsel is with the upright. His secret counsel is with the upright. It's this idea that God shows himself, his secret ways to those who are following him. Again, it's comparing and contrasting the wicked and the righteous. Verse 33, the curse of Yahweh is on the house of the wicked one. The curse. Man, that's strong language. But he blesses, there's that word again, blesses the abode of the righteous. So the abode or the house of the wicked is cursed, but the abode of the righteous is blessed. Verse 34, though he scoffs at scoffers, he gives grace to the humble. Who's the he there? Verse 34. Who is scoffing at whom? God is scoffing at those who scoff at him. What is a scoffer? Those are the poof guys, right? Whatever. Come on. Really? This is the Bill Maher's of the world, okay? Now, let me get this right. So some Middle Eastern shepherd people 2,000 years ago, that's where you're getting your religion? From your holy book, really? He says stuff like this. This is, Dan Dennett used to say stuff like that. Richard Dawkins still says stuff like this, it's a primitive religion, right? They scoff. They turn their nose up at this unsophisticated religion. By the way, the very religion that created the world that allows them to exist. That's what's so interesting about that. God scoffs at scoffers. Make no bones about it. He will have the last word. Okay? He scoffs at scoffers. They won't be scoffing forever. They will not. The smoke of their burning will rise. They will be cast down. Isaiah gives the impression God, with his white robe, will smash them, and their blood will spatter upon him, and he will destroy them in his wrath and anger. You want to scoff? You want to turn your nose? You want to, give God the finger? Let me tell you how that ends. It's not good. The flip side, verse 34b, he gives grace to the humble. He gives grace to the humble. Those who, instead of being arrogant and prideful and comparing themselves to others, understand their state in the world, that we are sinners saved by grace. James says that we are to humble ourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift us up. He will give grace to the humble. The wise will inherit glory, but fools raise up in disgrace. This is the irony. The humble guy is the one who gets the glory, not the one who is a, puff, 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 blow hard, look at me. The wise will inherit glory, but fools rise up in disgrace. So again, he's just comparing and contrasting these two different lifestyles of those who choose the fear of the Lord and those who walk in foolishness. Well, let's pray, and we'll get out of here. Lord God of heaven, make us wise unto salvation, now and forevermore. By your Spirit, give us wisdom and understanding. We might walk with Christ more circumspectly. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.